Good afternoon, everybody. It is Sunday, September 12th. Football is back today. Hope you're all enjoying this beautiful, beautiful Sunday afternoon, watching your games or spending time with friends and family or whatever it is you do. I'm Ed Carbajal for MMAnews.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before I get moving, we're going to talk about Triller Fight Club, Triller Fight Night, the Holyfield Belfort combat sports event that happened on Saturday evening, yesterday, September 11th. Welcome distraction, I guess, for folks like myself. I mean, anybody in the United States. You know, September 11th is always a rough day. I'm in 40 minutes outside of New York. Um, that day, oddly enough, the weather has been, even today, yesterday, the weather was just as beautiful as it was that day 20 years ago, September 11th. So, yeah, I'll close out with that. Because I don't want to bring anybody down, but definitely a day that rough for everybody. So I didn't mind, the Triller thing happening on a Saturday night. Especially there was bare knuckle on Friday night, which is a pretty amazing card. There was 11 bouts and 11 finishes. So if you didn't catch BKFC, make sure and you're a fan of that stuff, go check it out. The podcast I do, Coast to Coast Combat Hour, Matt Hawkins and I actually, we're recording as it was happening because we had to do the podcast a little late this week. But before I move on, as far as this YouTube channel is concerned, the Canadian God, James Lynch, has got some new content for us. He's got interviews with Cynthia Calvillo, Marina Rodriguez, and Merab Devashvili for their upcoming bouts. So make sure you do the thumbs up, like, click the bell, subscribe, and all that stuff so you can catch content like this and all of James Lynch's beautiful, beautiful interviews that he does for us here at MMAnews.com. If you like anything that I do, you can Luke Lopez. You can follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. Shout out to Luke Lopez, who always tunes in and drops some criticism for me. That's why I keep a cup of water with me, Luke, so I can try not to give you the Jersey cough and stutter and stammer so much. But listen, sometimes I'm a little hungover when I do these, and it's Sunday, for crying out loud. But anyway, let's move on to the news of the day from the weekend. Triller Fight Club, Holyfield versus Belfort. We've got the full results and highlights up at MMAnews.com. I'm going to bring them up for you here. I'm not going to play them, but I just want to, for reference, so we can look at the full results. There was prelims, and I feel like they didn't advertise that good enough. Otherwise, I would have liked to have watched those. You can still, those are actually free. You didn't have to pay for them. So if you go to Fight TV, you can let me bring this up, the results for you. You can look at those. I caught the end of the very last prelim because I didn't know about them. Again, yesterday was an interesting day for us here, especially in the Northeast. But if I knew about them, I would have liked to have watched those too. So I might go back and watch those later this evening because I'm still looking for, how do I say this? I don't like to be negative on the internet like Luke Lopez does. I do it, but there's so much negativity on the internet, especially about this, and I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to and I'm breaking your balls, Luke. I appreciate you sticking with me for this ride, but I don't like to be a negative guy, but this Triller thing that happened. First of all, let's talk about the positive stuff, which is, I mean, you had these two competitive boxing bouts between Carol and Vences and David Hay and Joe Fournier. This was like a friend beef or something like that, and they went to the distance, as you can tell by the scorecards. But the obviously the focal point of the night is the main event between Belfort and Holyfield. It was funny afterward. Sean Cunningham, USS Cunningham, who fought he fought Frank Miller, Frank Mir at the Triller event in what was that, in April, and he won by decision, which is the positive I took away from that event, because I just thought it was nice to have a competitive bout, a respectful lead up between two well-known and respected figures from boxing and MMA in a boxing match. If you've been following along with these Sunday submissions, I've been talking about these. What do we call them? Circus fights, freak show fights, whatever you want to call it. Um, I've always said the rule set that the senior man has experience under is the guy that's going to win most of the time. And that's been the case most of the time. That was the case with Cunningham and Mir. But to this event last night, that wasn't the case. But I mean, Belfort he's now 2-0 in boxing, right? And Holyfield, if you followed boxing, especially when boxing was great for folks in my generation, which is, Tyson era, Mike, growing up in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, before, for me, boxing fell apart when there was too many titles popping up left and right, and titles were being created for folks. And when Evander Holyfield was at the end of his career, right? Agua. So the this one didn't play out the way that I usually say things play out. But I mean, listen, Evander Holyfield's 58 years old. I think Vada. I wonder if I can find the tweet. I mean, I should have thought of this before I started recording, but sometimes my mind starts going. But Vada shared a which is one of the doping agencies that boxing uses, and they shared a statistic about brain health when you're past the age of 40. I mean, I didn't even know this. I mean, just in general, about brain shrinkage. I forget how much it shrinks as you get age, which is why folks get a little, after the age of 40. Well, it must be starting for me, but I can't find it. I don't want to waste time looking for it. But at 58 and the lead up to this, I mean, first of all, Evander Holyfield was doing media and everything and hitting pads, and there was nothing there. There was no evidence that we saw that from Holyfield outside of what he's already done. And I'm not trying to knock Holyfield out. I mean, I feel bad for the dude. So, and a lot of us do, which I guess we shouldn't, because if you didn't watch it or you didn't pay attention afterwards, Holyfield said at the end of the thing, he was interviewed afterward. I mean, he didn't, if you watch the finish here, again, if there's sound on these things, I can't play them unless they're like GIFs or whatever, GIFs. But I mean, we got a lot of highlights on here. Go to this page and you can see there's tons of slow-mo footage and stuff from this finish of Anderson Silva and Tito Ortiz. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but as far as Holyfield, they interviewed him afterwards. I believe it was Sean Porter and 50 Cent talked to was it 50 Cent? I have to go back and look at the footage, but he said he wasn't hurt and he was a little upset. He protested the stoppage himself. I mean, it was a 58-year-old guy trying to box a 44-year-old recently retired fighter, right? That knows a thing or two about boxing. And I don't get Vitor Belfort celebrating. I mean, if you beat Muhammad Ali's not here, but at the end of his years he had Parkinson's. Like, say he came out, at that age, retired, and you beat him. I mean, celebrating beating somebody that's pushing 60. I don't know. I think about myself and one of my jiu-jitsu instructors who has underwent a lot of knee surgeries and shoulder surgeries and has, fought MMA, had concussions and stuff like that. And he's a couple years older than me. When a young guy, taps out a black belt as old as I am or as old as he is, and he says, good for you. You tapped out a broken down, messed up 40-something-year-old black belt. Yeah, go home and celebrate that. That's sarcasm. There's nothing to celebrate. Vitor Belfort's roaring and stuff at the top of the cage. This is not the guy you were supposed to fight, number one. Coming in on a week's notice. I know last week I looked into it and saw that he was preparing. He was supposed to be on that Teofimo Lopez. I always mess up his opponent's last name, so I don't want to do it anymore. but he was supposed to be on the undercard of that for Triller, a Triller event. So I thought maybe, there was something we hadn't seen about Evander that, I mean, outside of his physique, not for nothing, for 58 years old for Evander. I hope I don't look like that now. Mike Heck from MMA Fighting was interviewed during him and said the same thing to him. I mean, his the way he looks like, I mean, he'd probably still knock out any young fool that tried to get crazy with him, over at you know, outside of boxing. Um, but I mean, there was a looping left hook that he threw. It looked a little wild. That he knocked himself off balance, and then the fight with Belfort. Is it on here? I mean, the finish is on here, so I'm not gonna again go to the this link and play it. I have it on the. It'll be in the description of the YouTube video, and it'll be it's on my Periscope where I broadcast this when I record it, but. It just wasn't a good look for Holyfield, and a little sad when you wake up this morning and there's all these things about Teddy Atlas said, why can't there be a pension? There's pension plans for in other sports. Why can't there be one for boxers? And listen, who knows the reason why everyone says it's money when it comes to boxers. It's just historically you've seen boxers that are past their prime and they didn't manage their money right when they were coming up, that they returned to boxing. But to counter that point, you see guys like Mike Tyson and doing things like Legends League, and the motivation behind the Legends Only League is for the guys that still feel like there's something there. And even Holyfield said he's interested in doing something with like that, like Tyson did with Roy Jones Jr. Even after the loss, and it's definitely time for Holyfield to not box anymore. But I don't think Vitor Belfort should be celebrating. And then he calls out, we have the articles up on here, but he calls out, the Jake Paul brothers thing. It's right in line with what Triller does. I mean, the Askren Paul was a Triller event, so I know the last one was a Showtime boxing thing. But if they have the money, I think it was a $30 million call out, winner take all type of thing for Belfort and to potentially face Jake Paul. And then, or I don't even remember if it was Jake Paul or Logan Paul, and I'm sorry if I forget that detail. But I mean, this was hard for me to watch last night. I'm not gonna lie. And then the co-main event, which is probably, if you want to look at something, Anderson Silva knocking out Tito Ortiz, 1 minute 21 seconds. This tweet by The Athletic. Man, this was something that I didn't see a knockout happening. I thought at least it would go to the distance or something. If you look at the odds, I forget what the odds were. I think I'm trying to remember off the top of my head when me and Matt looked at them Friday night. I believe it was plus 550 or something like that for Ortiz to win. And I didn't see a knockout happening because I'm not trying to be a dick, but Ortiz, he's got a big head. He looked like he could take a punch, but maybe we're forgetting how hard Anderson Silva hits. I mean, with all the finishes he's had by knockout during his time as reign as the middleweight king in the UFC. Again, and Tito Ortiz is a former title holder himself. So what are we gonna do? Like before leading into? I mean, what else would you think? I didn't see this happening, but Tito Ortiz tried to use his weight and rush him. I know, and the thing is, he lost 20% of his purse too because he didn't make weight for this. If I'm remembering the numbers right, Silva came in at 192 or 193, and Tito Ortiz came in it was supposed to be 195, and Tito Ortiz came in like 200 pounds or something like that. And he said the weight cut was hard, so maybe this is a result of trying to cut weight, and maybe the 20% purse takeaway didn't hurt so much. If Triller's been paying out the money we've been hearing they've been paying out to these guys for these events, but it's definitely something that I didn't see coming, because I thought Tito Ortiz still might have been able to take some shots. I mean, he fought in Bellator not that long ago. Then he fought in Combate Americas. or back then now Combate Global. And then it looked like he was just trying to use his weight and pressure him at this point in the round before this happened here. And it was two of these punches. He caught him here, and then he caught him again, and then he catches him here. And before this shot happened, he catches him again with the same punch. And as Tito Ortiz's head came up, he threw a left hook or a left punch that caught Tito Ortiz all here, and here, all knockout pinpoint accuracy as we know Anderson Silva has. Crazy, man. But and then Tito Ortiz was knocked out, and the memes on the internet, from this angle, this whoever this photographer is took the shot has become like constant meme. Like the internet's so fast, I can't even. I don't know how much time these guys have or the skills these folks have that they're able to put the memes out that came from that knockout. And I'm laughing because they're funny. Like it's hard not to laugh. But Tito Ortiz looked like he was all right. I mean, he got up and he called out Logan Paul, I believe, for Triller to fight again. Listen, some of these guys just don't know when to stop. Like this is all they did for almost. I mean, if you go look at their competitive before even like coming out of jiu-jitsu and wrestling or anything like that, they've been competing their whole lives. So when it comes time to stop, they don't know when to stop. Something keeps calling them back. And I've written so many retirement articles about folks and trying to just watching them, and you listen to them talk and how hard it is for them to walk away, especially when they stop and then they see the sport grow. You know what I mean? And boxing has always been around, but these weird Triller Fight Club level fights, they seem to be grabbing folks. I guess it's the TikTok generation or whatever you want to call it that they're grabbing. I know I'm gonna get shit for that being called. Or they call me boomer, whatever you want, as long as you watch, click like the video. I don't give a shit. But it's weird. It's just weird that these folks still find a way to motivate themselves. And the thing is too about them, they don't they don't uh they don't have the same, like my 40 something versus somebody that's done this for 20 years and they're 40 something like Vitor. They still will outwork me, who's a hobbyist in combat sports as far as my training goes. I mean, he'd probably wear me out in any jiu-jitsu, boxing, anything. I mean, it'd probably outlast me, just because you're just built different. So I think that's where it comes from. I will say this. I mean, if these are gonna keep happening, right? I mean, the October event with Tiafomo, they have to build that card, and they're probably going to add fights like this on that undercard. October's too soon, I would say. Anderson Silva, when they asked him afterward, which is weird because in the in-ring post-fight interview, Anderson Silva said they asked him, the woman that they had, I forget her name. She was like, "Are you coming back? When can we expect to?" No, is this the last time we're going to see you? And Silva replied, "Probably." But then in the post-fight press conference, he said the idea of him and Vitor Belfort makes sense as a next event like this. And then he mentioned the Paul brothers, and then because they're just, it's money. There's money in it when you mention the Paul brothers. So I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to knock anybody for calling them out anymore, or whatever. I mean, listen, if we can have fun and make some money, I'm not gonna knock anybody for having some fun and making some money. But the fight, to me, that makes sense, and we'd have to get. I'm sure I might have been the only one mentioning it that night, so I'm gonna say it on here and see what you guys think. I check the comments for this all the time, by the way. Luke Lopez. But I mean, you'll probably be the first to comment. So let me know what you think, Luke, and other folks. What do you think about Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva in a boxing match on the Queensberry rules? I feel like that first of all, Chael Sonnen could sell, ice to an Eskimo or whatever the saying goes. Because the guy just knows how that part of the business is done. And that's my battery. Hold on. Plug this bad boy in. Sorry about that. I thought I could make it through 30 minutes here. But the other thing is there's history there. I mean, you look at their two, they fought each other twice. Usually you want a trilogy and to settle things. So if they make it one of these Triller things, and not for nothing, um I know Chael's a great wrestler, but I mean, Clayton Hires is his boxing coach. I mean, he's got decent boxing, like not for nothing. He's said a bunch of times on his own podcast that he's he's a boxer. He's called himself a boxer. So why not? I bet you they could sell that. Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen, and Triller Fight Club. I think that's something that can be, marketed for this demographic, which is me pretty much, and anybody that and of course placement of the date or whatever. Like there was nothing going on last night, so if you're a fight, fight head like me, boxing head, MMA head, whatever you want to call it, you were looking for fights, and a lot of folks were, this was trending. Anderson Silva was trending because of this knockout. So it's something something to put in your mind and throw it around a little bit. But I do want to bring up. I know I tweeted it because the slow mo, there's no sound on it, so I'm gonna find it and share that with you guys. The finish of this. It shouldn't be too far down my own timeline. Oh god, there's so many memes. I share too much when fights happening. Oh, there was a drunk woman. During Danny Segura put up the video footage. There was a drunk woman that was causing trouble the whole night in the event. I mean, this was in Florida, by the way. And then they did something, they did the 10 bell count for 9/11, and they had this drunk woman in the goddamn venue that apparently she was causing. If you look at the media that was present and their tweets, she was causing problems all night. And then Danny Segura put up the video that they carted her ass out of there. Thank God that they did, because I mean, not for nothing, keep your fucking mouth shut. Like for certain time, we don't need to hear your commentary on every goddamn thing. Sometimes you just let people have their moments, and that was one of them that I was just like, come on, dude, like, you don't do that. You just don't. I guess I didn't share it. There's a slow mo out there. Just all the footage out there from the Anderson Silva's finish. It was reminiscent of what we know Anderson Silva for. And they had Michael Chandler in the arena because he what was it, Deerfield Park or Deerfield Creek, wherever Anderson Silver's at. This event took place. My Wi-Fi's messing up a little here, so I'm sorry about that. But sorry about that. That was a connection issue. Jesus, we had flooding and shit here out in Jersey, so I'm sorry about that. But Michael Chandler was present. They asked him for his prediction. Then he talked about his fight with Justin Gaethje for UFC 268. I mean, he says I think it's Deerfield Park. That was not far from the venue, so he was there it was close by, 20 minutes or something. He said, and he predicted. Everybody kind of predicted Belfort to win by knockout because, like, who are we kidding here, man? I mean, I don't know if we're gonna see De La Hoya. Let me take this off the stream. I don't know if we're gonna see De La Hoya step up again. He's home, he's recovered. If you didn't know, he was removed a week away from I'm sure you know by now. And he said he was going to be back in the ring when he was home, like, after his fight with COVID-19. But something inside me said this was not going to happen, right? When it was Belfort and De La Hoya, something inside me, when it was announced, I joking around with my family, I even said, I think I might have said this on last week's Sunday submission, between the TRT stuff and De La Hoya's, I mean, let's cocaine or whatever the hell he's been in the news for after his fighting career was done. Like, I just felt like something was going to happen. So when I wasn't surprised that, I mean, it was COVID-19. And I think I said this last week, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but I mean, the fact that his name was mentioned as a potential upcoming bout, like, now, if I'm Triller, I know no one can control if they contract COVID-19 or nothing like that, but I'm still. I, I know he got tested, or whatever, but I think it's. I mean, maybe he was going through withdrawal or something. Who knows? That's my opinion, not MMAnews.com. So if you want to drop some hate on my that comment, hate me, don't hate the outlet or whatever. But if I'm Triller, I don't know if I book that again. Put his name on a marquee again. Maybe like I said, I mean, Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva. That's the one to make, in my opinion. Or the Paul brothers. You know, their name. They seem to bring in money for this type of thing. So let them do it if they're going to do it. I mean, as long as nobody gets really hurt really bad. Again, Andrew Vander Holyfield said he wasn't hurt that bad. He disputed the stoppage and the. But I don't know, man. I wasn't expecting. I was hoping for experience, his boxing experience. I mean, the guy was heavyweight champion of the world for, when he was in his prime. And for some reason, I thought we would have gotten a nice moment where he, you know, shut us all up and maybe got a lucky puncher's chance punch against Belfort. But the knockout, I predicted the knockout. Yeah, I just, especially his interviews and stuff like that. I think it might have been New York State that wouldn't license him when he tried to come back some time ago. I can't think of when it was. You'd have to do some research, but I tried to research it actually when I was doing my research for last Sunday when I found out about his June booked bout to find out when it was, and I couldn't find it. But because there's things, and there's even in these interviews like when he was talking about the MMA and this, it just was sad to see. So I know his family was like voiced their concerns too leading up to the bout. Vitor Belfort's family ran in there and hugged him and kissed him like he did something, and I know he's been through his own shit too personally, Vitor Belfort. So, but these guys, everybody, at the end of the day, everybody signed something to agree and say this is good enough for me, win or lose. The money's worth it or whatever. So, and we're all guilty. What's the lady say at the "Don't F with Cats" thing on Netflix? We're all guilty for watching. So call me guilty too for watching. But if Anderson Silva could just stop right now if he wanted to, and nobody would, he's got nothing left to prove. I'm not gonna lie and say that I don't like watching him win. I mean, first of all, he beat a legit boxer when he did his first boxing bout, and then he came in last night and as they say, there's levels to things. And Anderson Silva showed that there's levels to when you try to come into the world of striking. And he said some pretty cool things about Wing Chun and Bruce Lee too in his post-fight press conference. So I thought that was pretty good. That's why Anderson Silva is just hard not to like the dude and want to support him and see him do well. Plus, he's funny too. He seems like a nice dude. Generally, I'm like, if you look at some of his interactions and stuff like that, and then even if it's funny, I'm watching the ring girls behind him, because they like to just stand these pretty girls in boxing, anything. There's always those girls, the Corona girls or whatever, that they got the girls. They're standing there smiling, and you could see them, their cheeks getting sore from smiling, and sometimes they relax. But Anderson's responses to some questions, you could see them cause them to laugh or whatever. So if they do like a Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, that's just me, by the way. Don't make that news. I think that's something they could sell. I'm perfectly fine if Chael Sonnen wants to stay retired and be a dad and all that stuff, and his podcast and all his work he does with ESPN. I that's fine. I don't want better that these guys don't get hurt. It's more fun to just make money without getting hurt, right? So I would prefer they all do that, if as long as they can find a way to be successful and live their lives comfortably, because they've already given us so much in their careers. Holyfield, Belfort, Silva, Sonnen, all these guys that are that seem to come up for entertainment purposes, because it's combat sports, it's controlled violence. We got to remember that as fight fans. We have to remember at the end of the day, they're not doing this it's the way they make money, but they're also risking, a lot physically. So take that with you. And again, yesterday, the day that this happened was September 11th. It was welcome for me. Waking up on that day, with the weather being as nice as it was 20 years ago when those horrible attacks happened to this country. September 11th has always been a hard day for me to get through. So to close out the day with something that can pull our minds away from it, that was I can't completely hate on the event, because it does sports is our escape. And I'm gonna let you go as we close out this Sunday submission, because I'm sure football is going on and you guys want to escape to that. So enjoy your football. Thank you so much. I'm tapping out. Again, check out MMAnews.com for the full results and all the footage and highlights if you want to see that Anderson Silva finish of Tito Ortiz and the Vitor Belfort, the finish to that fight. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. And again, bell notification, thumbs up for the YouTube is much appreciated. And we're up to 1,200. So thank you so much for subscribing. And I'll catch you next week. Peace.